Hi, I'm Jenna Eyre. I'm an associate with CBRE, and I focus on occupiers in the market and tenant representation. CBRE is pleased to partner with Silicon Slopes in hosting these town hall events. CBRE understands our technology clients because CBRE is a technology-driven company. CBRE invests in technology to help you invest in your growth. To learn more about how CBRE can help service your real estate needs, visit cbre.com.
Welcome to the Silicon Slopes Town Hall. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Today we are joined by Dr. Trent Kaufman, who is the CEO of the Cicero Group. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Appreciate you having me.
Doctor's cool.
You can just call me Trent. It works.
Okay, very cool, Trent. All right, let's jump into some easy ones. For those that aren't aware, what is the Cicero Group?
Cicero Group is the premier management consulting firm in the Intermountain West. We offer a traditional range of management consulting services from research and market research all the way through transformation and implementation services. We can get into this in more detail.
Yeah. So let's talk about your journey to Cicero, and then we'll go into the finer details of what management consulting is, because you have an interesting background. How did you end up here?
That's a great question. The true founder of Cicero is named Randy Shumway, and Randy's a former Bain consultant who founded Cicero in 2001 in the Bay Area. Now, at the time, he had an older son who was attending a local high school and frankly not having a great experience there. And so Randy decided to run for school board and was quickly elected by his fellow school board members to be the school board president. And at that time, I was a social studies teacher and baseball coach at that high school. And that's how we met. From the early days, Randy and I not only hit it off, but found that we had similar personalities and similar ambitions in life. And he started including me in some summer work that I could do because I had my summers off. And we got to know each other a little bit better. I became the principal of that school, and later went to grad school, and we had an agreement that when I came back from grad school, we would do something together. What we chose to do together in 2007 was found together a small separate consulting company called Education Direction. And the goal of Education Direction is to turn around underperforming schools, public schools, using management consulting techniques. So a data-driven approach to turning around underperforming schools. And we founded that company together, and within just a few months, we realized that it made sense to bring it together. And so Cicero Group, by the end of 2008, included Education Direction. And I spent the next, many years learning management consulting from one of the best, and grew within the company, and eventually was the chief operating officer, the number 2 at Cicero Group. All the while I was running the education practice. And in January of 2017, I became the CEO of Cicero Group. Randy is still actively engaged, still probably works more than I do as the chairman of Cicero Group. And we have leaders who run, the various business units within Cicero. But that's a quick synopsis of how I got, from choosing to be a high school teacher as my major at BYU to running the state's largest management consulting firm.
Very interesting. All right, so management consulting, some of the more famous names would be McKinsey, Bain, Booz Allen Hamilton. So what is the process to bringing in a management consultant? It has to start somewhere, an email or a phone call. Why do people reach out to you and your team?
Yeah, great question. Management consulting is considered by many to be the premier first job if you're looking to be in business and looking to be a business leader or even an entrepreneur. And so in terms of applications to Cicero, that's never been the hard part. We receive today, let's say for every 20 positions we hire for, which might be a typical annual recruit would be, roughly 20 new consultants each year, we receive over 2,000 applications. So management consulting, just like investment banking, just like private equity, is considered, to be great training grounds to be a future business leader. And, my preference is management consulting, and I tell, young business leaders the same thing. In management consulting, especially the flavor we do at Cicero, you get to go in, dive into a business, understand its inner workings. You then get to make recommendations as to what the business could do to get back on track or to increase its performance. And then you get to stick around and help implement those changes. And so, to be able to see the life cycle from, data to idea to implementation at large companies, I consider that even better training ground than you can get at some of these other, more typical or other typical first jobs. So how do we come about our consultants? We recruit from the top schools in the state and all over the region and frankly all over the country. And then it's about screening from thousands of applicants down to the few dozen that we might hire in a given recruiting class.
Gotcha. So you got your stable full of these horses, and you're going to saddle them with a ton of work. They're the best and
That's the model.
brightest. And it is a great proving ground. So on average, do you guys deal with, companies or folks that give you a dumpster fire and problems, or a pretty refined machine that needs to get refined even a little bit more? What's your kind of workload balance there?
Yeah, it depends on company size. Most of our clients are going to fit in the north of $150 million range. And those clients typically don't bring dumpster fires to us, but I also wouldn't call them well-oiled machines. Companies that are larger than 2 or 3 billion, their problems typically come with refined processes and systems that we need to work within. But our sweet spot there in the middle, these are companies who have maybe grown really rapidly, or maybe they're introducing new products to the market, and that's not a muscle that they exercise every day, and so that they come to us to help them do it well. So a typical example might be let's say a new product offering, and it might be through the ideation and innovation and even engineering phases, and companies are starting to try to understand product market fit. And we can take a very scientific approach to that, especially if it's a product or industry that our client may be somewhat unfamiliar with. We can get them a baseline of information, and to a pretty scientific degree, help them predict that if they make certain decisions about product configuration, pricing, packaging, bundling, et cetera, we can help them predict what kind of a business this is going to be for them.
Gotcha. So it comes down to a decision for your clients of, we don't exercise this muscle very much. We've got X amount of money. We can either hire Cicero or try to duct tape and baling wire it ourselves. How often is it the CEO has to humble himself a little bit versus, I know this is the right decision and we don't have the bandwidth?
Yeah, I think the degree to which leadership at the company understands the value of third-party eyes and ears is highly correlated with whether or not they hire us for a particular project. Humility is definitely part of it, but for the most part, if they're thinking about something new or different, they're approaching it. Our experience has been they're approaching it somewhat humbly and admitting what they don't know. So it's really the degree to which they appreciate and value a third-party perspective. And I think Utah companies in particular, obviously Silicon Slopes focuses here in the Beehive State. Cicero's really the first decent scale management consulting firm that has made it in Utah. And so in many ways, we're introducing management consulting to your member companies. And so we have a job of convincing these companies that they need management consulting, and then it's not hard afterwards to convince them that Cicero is the right partner. But I do think it's an admission that they need help, and then I think the next decision is, should we go hire for a role or free up current team members somehow and backfill for them, or should we go out and get third-party help? And that's a recognition of needing third-party eyes and ears, but it's also being able to do the math on full-time team member hires versus short-term external team hires. And we can be expensive. We can look expensive. I guess I should say we can look expensive when you look at a single project. It might be a 6 or 7 week project, and it's 6 figures, and that can look expensive. And so the ROI calculation on us versus full-time team members for folks who are new at using management consultants, that's some of the sales process for us, is explaining and trying to show the ROI.
Gotcha. So you've got all the pieces together, and a potential client has ticked off enough boxes to where they'll either say yes or no. So you've got a new client. You've got a lot of chicken or egg scenarios, it sounds like, with your team of like, all right, who's going to be on this and who's not. But what's the quick and dirty onboarding process for these clients as they become part of your clientele and your team?
Yeah, from project scope to starting the project, it takes anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 or 3 weeks, and it depends on a lot of things. But Cicero prides itself in being very nimble and able to jump on projects quite quickly and start getting to the core of the issues quite quickly. So, a kickoff call would typically be the beginning, and we're going to ask a lot of questions. We're going to try to start understanding, the context for the decision, the timeline for the decision, and that helps us finalize our scope, helps us finalize our team. And once we've, understood scope, we've understood need, we've understood business context, then one of my main roles as CEO is to make sure we assign the right team. And we want to make sure, our team is our product. Remember, Garrett, a lot of the member companies here at Silicon Slopes have products that they work on and develop and analyze. They put it on the proverbial table to analyze as a team. And we do the same thing, but with our team members. So, we're very careful to know strengths and weaknesses of our team. We're very careful to understand, areas of expertise and personality dynamics, so that when we assemble a team for a client, we've got all the ingredients necessary to just go crush it, to go answer the question and exceed expectations.
Gotcha. And so my interaction with you and your team, you've got good writers, you've got good data scientists, you've got good financial modelers. What's the process as your employees grow into that? What's the most important in 2021?
Well, I think all of those things matter. And so, when you think about a management consulting firm, there are a lot of really small ones out there, little boutique management consulting shops. And the issue there is that, the question you would have if you're hiring a 5 or 10 person management consulting team, your question is, they may have on paper the skills I need right now, but as the project evolves, are they going to have the well of resources and knowledge to go to, do they have basically enough people with a broad enough skill set? So we're adamant at Cicero that the first 3 roles is analyst, associate, and engagement manager. That's a roughly 6 to 9 year path. We're adamant that you do not specialize during that time of your career at Cicero. You stay as broad as possible. And what that then cross-trained as possible, that allows us to have a big bench of resources that can tackle nearly any problem for nearly any client. Then you start getting into the more advanced roles. It becomes a principal, which is like a junior partner role, more business development, more subject matter expertise, into partner and then senior partner. And those roles require both the cross-training that you developed earlier in your career and the depth of expertise that 2021 will require, whether it's data science or financial modeling or transformation, Yeah.
I guess the biggest trait would be like good communication and getting along with people, because you've got egos and different personalities and numbers and words, and it all has to come together.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you can imagine that's a challenge, right? We hire the smartest people. We hire the most capable, most successful folks who truly are experts in their domains, as they grow into senior roles. And so we work a lot on that. How do your clients don't hire us to just sit back and be passive and do whatever they say. They hire us to challenge them. And so that balance of pushing hard enough and demonstrating that expertise in the face of strength from our clients is something we work quite hard on.
Yeah. On the topic of challenging, so Henry Ford was a pretty darn good entrepreneur, and year over year he tried to make his cars cheaper, and if he didn't blame it on anybody else or pass the expense on to customers. He'd just say, that was bad management, whether it was the factories weren't as efficient as they could be, or the shipping, or the rail, or the freight. And if he didn't like something, he might go out and buy a spur of railroad and better management that. So you guys will obviously pride yourselves on coming up with the best management solutions and implementation solutions. What happens when the client's like, I don't know, or are you sure? What's the process of getting through that wiki?
Well, I would take Henry Ford's mantra there, and I would say that's bad management consulting. The process of getting to the right answer must be collaborative. It's got to be the mix, or a strong mix, of this kind of academic, rigorous, data-driven approach that we're hired to take, and then accounting for the experiences and the gut instinct of the leaders who have gotten the company to where it is today. And so, one of the most anticlimactic things we do at Cicero is the final readout. Those meetings are inspiring, and they provide really good closure for our teams, but they're nothing new for our clients. We've been hand in hand with them all along. Now, not all decisions are simple or easy, and so if there's, let's say, for example, a project where we are suggesting some cost reductions, which might include maybe SKU rationalization, it might include even personnel or headcount topics. Not everyone in the organization is going to support those, because those SKUs are all attached to someone's, that's someone's baby. The people, obviously, we all care about people. So it's not that it's easy, it's that it's not new news by the final readout. And our job is that the champion in our client, whoever's running the project at our client, that they embrace, understand, support, and are ready to lead out on the initiative. Because we've used data, we've used experience, we've used gut instinct, and we've come together to create the best solution. So that's the goal.
Gotcha. And that's getting it right. And you and I were playing golf in the spring, and I was talking about a book I was reading at the time. It was about the Home Depot founding story and them building up the Home Depot. And them trying to figure out SKUs and this hammer and sheetrock. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? That would be such a pain. And then you said, yeah, but it's so good when you get it right. Talk about like some of your good feelings with getting it right.
Yeah, I think pricing is actually a good context for that. We believe in the entrepreneurial community here in Utah, we believe in failing fast. And that's, absolutely the right approach when you're starting a business, when you have, limited resources and you're trying to find product market fit. You've got to throw stuff on the wall and see what sticks. And pricing is included. We have a lot of SaaS companies here that are member companies of Silicon Slopes. Getting a SaaS price right early on is about trying different things and seeing what people buy. As a company grows, the risk associated with failing on pricing and having to switch pricing, change pricing frequently, the risk there goes up, and the potential damage you could incur goes up. And frankly, with SaaS businesses, that's one of the best levers you have for company growth and profitability is pricing. And so getting that right price is, I mentioned to you when we were together how fulfilling it is. But beyond the fact that it's fulfilling, it's very impactful to the business. If you can get that price point at which you are maximizing profits, where that elasticity curve is at its absolute maximum point, it means you're leaving no money on the table. And as an entrepreneur, nothing pains you more than leaving money on the table. And so overcharging can be obviously just as painful. And so, finding that right price, especially as a company matures, has more clients, and the risk of getting it wrong goes up, is an incredibly impactful thing. And I think that's a really good distinction between entrepreneurial leadership and the kind of fail fast mentality. And as you mature, how do you grow into also more of a data-driven, more of an scientific approach, so that when you do make a decision, it's the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys offer a lot of services to different verticals: education, private equity, for-profit, a lot. So on the flip side, how do you and your team devise services? Because that's, again, kind of your product. Your people are your product, but your services. How do you guys kind of read the tea leaves, data, gut instinct on what services you might look around the corner and feel like you should provide down the road?
Yeah, our own product market fit is critical, and we organize ourselves internally in a way that kind of demonstrates our belief in product market fit, and we make investments in new senior hires in ways that help, can be illustrative of what we think product market fit is. And one thing that we're really focused on right now that I think has been a big area, but will continue to grow, is in the M&A space. So the services in and around mergers and acquisitions are plentiful. You can have a post-merger integration, a PMI project kind of after the fact, or you can go, all the way back to early stages where companies can hire Cicero to help them develop a pipeline of potential acquisitions. We also run, clean data rooms during acquisition processes to make sure that we have all the data and the right people have access to that data, but not more than the right people have access to all the data. We also have quite a strong line of services for private equity firms specifically, whether, again, it's about finding a target. It's more often with private equity firms, it's more often about doing diligence on a target. It could be pre-LOI, it could be post-LOI, depending on the size of the private equity firm. So, there's been a lot of activity in that space over the last couple of years. We believe that will only continue, and a management consulting firm that can serve the life cycle of an acquisition will succeed, and we hope to be right there in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. So your background is in education, all the way from boots on ground to baseball coach and civics teacher, all the way to your advanced degrees, and that is a part of Cicero. But what's that aside? What's your favorite part of the business?
Well, whatever I say, everyone else at Cicero is going to feel left out. That's a little bit of a tough question. I mean, everyone at Cicero knows that my area of expertise is education, and so I spend a lot of time in that. And gosh, Garrett, there's nothing more fulfilling than turning around an underperforming school. Everyone's happy: parents, kids, teachers, everybody. I've spent my life figuring out how to do that well. But I'll tell you, the last few years, watching and collaborating on the work we do for private equity companies, it's really fun work. They're short, fast, impactful projects, and Cicero's particularly good at that. It could be when I said there's sometimes 30 minutes between a call and the start of a project, I was referring to our private equity practice. These firms who are bidding on potential acquisitions, or they're looking at assets, the timelines they're running under are very compressed, and so it's fun when we get the call or we a client decides to run a project and I've got to figure out how do we staff it by tomorrow, who's going to be on it, how do we have impact, and team members are working all night, they're working through the weekends, and they actually love it because it's so immediately impactful. So that work is really fun. I can't say it's my favorite, but we've seen a lot of growth, and it's really a good fit for Cicero's capabilities.
Yeah, working on private equity deals will change the way you see the world for sure.
Yeah.
We've got young interns like, what is private equity? I'm like, I don't know. Look around the room, that little piece of plastic's owned by some private equity company, and like they're very sharp and they can figure out how to make money. So that goes back into hiring the right folks that won't be intimidated. because the private equity folks can be fairly intimidating.
Very demanding clients.
Very demanding.
They sharpen our saw in real ways, which is part of the reason why it's such a fun part of the business.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit. We were at a RSL game, and we were just chewing the fat, but you brought up a fun story of when you were still a teacher and applying all the stuff that's in your brain that's translated into Cicero. Of you were kind of turning around just your class, right? And you showed the results, and I don't know how you did it, if it's PowerPoint or a spreadsheet or whatever, but can you just talk a little bit about that, and then as you push that upstream, what were the results?
Yeah, it's fun. This story actually says a lot about me and about why I made the career choices I've made, so it's a fun one. I'll try to tell it quickly. I was a young, 21, 22-year-old teacher in Northern California, and taught social studies. The subject I was assigned was economics. I had taken more economics classes than anything else. So I was teaching high school economics to seniors in high school. And in California at the time, we're talking late 90s, there was an end-of-year exam for just about every course that was required for high school students. It was called the Golden State exam. And when I took over the economics program at this high school, a couple students at our high school, 2 or 3, were getting the highest honors on that Golden State exam. By the time I left the classroom to go be an administrator, 80% of my students in economics were getting high honors on that exam. And I was so proud of it. And the way I accomplished that, and obviously the students are the ones who actually achieved it, but the way we got there was data-driven strategy. I mean, it was everything now that I'm helping apply at businesses and schools all over the country. Basically backwards mapping, what do kids need to know, what do I need to teach them to get them there, and how do I measure along the way so we know our progress. And I'll just never forget the time I was asked to talk about the results and how I achieved it with the school system. And I think a lot of folks received it very positively, and certainly the superintendent received it positively. That's why I was assigned to be the dean of academics the year after. And but a few folks didn't, and they were heavy union participants. And I was pulled aside and in essence told that when one teacher shows that kind of results, the expectation can be that all teachers achieve those kinds of results. And I looked at this person and I said, exactly. And that was, we believed the same thing, but she took it as a negative thing, and I took it as a very positive thing. And eventually that sort of attitude drove me out of working day to day in the public school system, though now I get the best of both worlds. I get to help, I get to contribute, but I don't have to live in that and work in that culture every day.
Yeah, that's a good story, and a little bit sad that was some of the reactions there, but I guess that's part of life. Nothing really comes that easy. Sticking on the educational aspect, kind of a fun, weird question. So you've got a lot of knowledge in your brain over the years. Again, higher education, you can say you've done it, plus everything that you've learned at Cicero. So if you had some key decision makers that could actually implement some of these policies, and you had 30 minutes where they had to listen to you and listen good, what would be some of the things that you would hit on that are actionable and that could move the needle?
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything new, unfortunately. I may add a twist to it. But in K-12 education, for the last however many decades you can count, one of the most common ingredients to successful schools is strong leadership. And not just the kind of leadership, someone who can decisively point the school in a certain direction, but the kind who rolls up their sleeves, the kind who pushes boundaries, and the kind who mostly keeps kids and their futures at the fore. That kind of leadership, unfortunately, won't be prepared through the traditional preparation methods. I mean, I went through a very progressive principal preparation program at UC Berkeley. I mean, you can imagine we learned all the latest techniques and cutting edge and student responsive techniques. But there's some key things I didn't learn that I think the next generation of school leaders are going to have to know how to do in order to effectively change what is the culture of public school. It's a dysfunctional culture, and that has to be turned around. It gets turned around in individual schools all the time. You see these schools who suddenly are really spiking and beating the odds. And in every one of those stories, you can point to some strong leadership. Sometimes it's a single individual. Sometimes it's a group of lead teachers or department chairs. Sometimes it's a superintendent. But at the core of that spiky performance is strong leadership. And so I would, and I have talked to the legislature. I'll continue to push for new and different ways to prepare school leaders to help schools focus more on kids and their outcomes. And come hell or high water, we're going to do what we need to do as a school to get these kids career and college ready. That's what I would argue for.
Yeah. So the PTA conferences when you show up are a little bit different, I would imagine.
Haven't been invited to a PTA conference yet.
Well, when you call your kids' teachers, I'm sure they're getting ready. All right, so this has all been great and fun and insightful, and we actually have worked with you over the last year and gotten to know you and your group. Two-part question, real quick. Can you touch on the Economic Impact Committee, the work that you guys did, a brief timeline to show what happens with speed and product market fit, and then talk a little bit about the data research team that is a partnership between Silicon Slopes, Cicero, UVU, BYU, and some other educational institutions.
Yeah, this is fun to talk about. On the first question, I'll be as brief as I can. In the end, as the data from the Paycheck Protection Program came out and clearly showed that Utah was the #1 state in terms of PPP receipt as a percentage of payroll, a lot of entities, a lot of people had a hand in that. But it would be foolish not to also give the Economic Impact Committee at Silicon Slopes a large portion of the credit. The committee mobilized quickly after what we now call Rudy Gobert Day, put together some of the brightest minds in the state. CEOs were volunteering time and resources, and eventually Jeremy Andrus was asked to run that committee. Garrett, yourself, John Bowers, Clint Betts all participated. And within just a short period of time, what we uncovered through some research that you guys asked Cicero to lead was that Utah business owners and leaders were very nervous about this PPP program. The idea of a forgivable loan, and there were certain requirements, and hey, we'll give you this money, but we haven't defined how we're going to forgive it yet. That makes a very conservative, very risk-averse Utah community nervous. We were able to, produce all sorts of great content. Garrett, you led a lot of this, webinars, content. We pushed out a lot of information, and in the end, Utah really succeeded in getting that money to the right people. So that's the first part of the question. And there's lots of other players and lots of other initiatives, but really proud of that work. And from that has born a really nice partnership between Cicero and Silicon Slopes. We're excited to be part of this. What we've been able to just narrow in on is that Silicon Slopes should be the hub or the center of data for Utah and the Mountain West on two main topics. The first is human capital. Who's in the tech industry? What are they paid? What's the ROI? Why should people be working for Utah tech companies? Everything around the career life cycle in tech, in industry in Utah. The second topic then is financial capital. Who's spending what kind of money at what stage and to what end and what impact and with what terms? There is a treasure trove of data out there. There's a lot of it, and we're just dipping our toes in the water with you and with some other partners, some academic partners and some member companies, really trying to narrow in on, how can we answer some of the big questions that folks who want to invest in Utah, folks who are already in Utah, that they have about human capital here and about financial capital. I view it as probably one of the most impactful things that Cicero and Silicon Slopes could work on over the next few years.
Yeah, I agree. And it'll be an ongoing process. There will be some long-term, medium-term, short-term initiatives that we do, but it'll be fun, and I think it'll be additive to the community. There will be some more resources that they can all can all utilize. Well, cool. I very much appreciate you taking the time. So if there's folks out there that think they might want a management consultant, what's the process for them to get in touch with you and your team?
Well, it's pretty easy if you go to the website to reach out to us. And if you want to reach out through Silicon Slopes, obviously Garrett and others can point you in the right direction. And I'd say for the tech community in Utah, who is maybe not used to management consulting, not familiar with what it is we can offer, I'd say give it a try. Give us a call, and we're quick to say where we may not be the right solution provider. So we'd love to have a conversation with you.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Trent. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Garrett. This was fun.
Hi, I'm Jenna Eyre. I'm an associate with CBRE, and I focus on occupiers in the market and tenant representation. CBRE is pleased to partner with Silicon Slopes in hosting these town hall events. As the largest commercial real estate services firm on the globe, we pride ourselves in having the most robust and flexible technology services platform in the industry. We tailor custom results to every client we serve. That includes our many technology clients. CBRE offers a full suite of services designed to add value and drive business to your bottom line. This includes the ability to help you determine how much space you might need. It also includes tools that allow you to analyze workforce demographics to determine which area and location might best suit your company's future growth. If it's design services you need, CBRE has tools that allow you to custom design your own floor plan and test fit to drive you to occupancy faster and money to your bottom line. CBRE understands our technology clients because CBRE is a technology-driven company. CBRE invests in technology to help you invest in your growth. To learn more about how CBRE can help service your real estate needs, visit cbre.com.